Audio! While Pokemon usually has light, catchy tunes, Pearl's soundtrack feels uninspired. Often the background music is hardly even music and is better described as atmospheric, which is not a good thing. It actually becomes a problem with the bicycle music as it plays every time you ride your bike, and it's quite annoying. The sound effects remain dated, with the cries of the Pokemon sounding the same as they did on the original Game Boy. 6. Depth. Pokemon games have been good games because the battle system works. The sheer number of different moves, Pokemon, and types make the depth of possible combinations quite astonishing. It's still hampered a bit by the overwhelming advantage of having a type advantage, though. The daycare also has a lot of potential for the player to work with, but the game does little to explain or encourage it. And it seems little has changed from the Pokemon Silver and Gold daycare. 8. Value and fun without online. Although you may have thought it impossible, the story in Pokemon Pearl is even worse than previous entries. It still has the cliché group of baddies trying to take over the world, but in Pearl you're not even sure what the group is trying to do or why it's even a bad thing that they're doing it. I still don't know, and I beat the game. The game doesn't really explain anything, and seemingly relies on you doing things because it's a Pokemon game. The battle system is slow, but it's still solid. Winning a tough battle is rewarding and fun. Unfortunately, such battles are rare and really only happen because your Pokemon are at a distinct level advantage. The AI in the game remains atrocious by still picking its moves at random, so you get waves of easy trainers, all with the same few Pokemon. Again, a Pokemon game released years ago, Pokemon Stadium, has a far better AI and thusly far better battles. Running into new Pokemon has always been exciting, but in Pearl it is far rarer than it should be. Even so, the excitement is hampered by the fact that you can't sustain a party of more than 6. 2-on-2 battles, an excellent addition introduced in Emerald, could have helped alleviate this issue, but those battles remain relatively uncommon. Once you complete the game, you unlock the Battle Tower, where you can fight battles with a set number of Pokemon and no items. You fight a series of 7 battles that are really just 6 easy battles and 1 tough one. And that tough one tends to come down to lucky type matching due to typically you only having 3 Pokemon on your team. The main problem with the game is how slow everything is. I timed how long it took from the time the music for a random encounter starts to the moment you can move your character on the overworld, and it took 19.5 seconds to just run away. I also tested 7 times for how many steps it took for a random encounter to incur, which was an average of 11. That's way too long and way too often. The menus are convoluted, and turning off the battle animations does little. Then there's the stupid design choices that make things even worse. The fog is deep, and it's awful. Really, separate deposit and withdraw. There's even a section of mud that you'll get stuck in with the only possible reason of annoying you. But personally, the most annoying thing are the HMs because you still can't forget them normally. HM moves are TMs that you can use over and over and have a special use in the overworld, such as letting you cut down an obstacle. For a little history for those who don't know, there is a logical reason for not being able to forget HM moves in the Game Boy games. In Pokemon Blue, you could only carry 50 items because of hardware limitations, so you could deposit your items in your PC much like your Pokemon. You can't do this in Pearl because you always carry all your items. So if you deposited an HM, then went to an area where you can only get in and out using that HM, then forgot that move, you would be trapped. In Pokemon Pearl, you cannot deposit items, therefore you cannot get trapped. I should not have to tell the developer this. HMs shouldn't have to be taught to Pokemon anyway, and should be items that you just use like a key. The developer has put no thought into updating anything, even extremely dated concepts, yet the overall design not related to keeping the exact same formula is not even done well. 5.75 Value and fun with online. This is an interesting category due to another annoying design choice. You can't battle online with random opponents, only registered friends. I do not consider this part of the value of a game due to excessive complications. For an extreme example, a game may be really fun if you have 8 computers on a local area network and 7 friends to play with, but that's quite difficult. If you have several friends to do this with or can rely on forumites to battle, then online battles may be a good thing to you, but be forewarned, it can be very difficult to schedule games. Without friends, you can trade Pokemon online. This is simple and effective. Due to Nintendo not wanting its service crest, though, you can only put 1 Pokemon up for trade at a time, but I think that's fair. Trades are done by leaving a specification, Pokemon type and general level, and if an offer is made of that, it is immediately transacted so you can leave a Pokemon overnight and have the trade done the next day. There is also a very strange online feature in which you can download data from other trainers and battle their teams controlled by the terrible AI. It's not really worth explaining it any further. 6. Overall without online. It's a common trend that fans of the old Pokemon games are interested in getting back into the series with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, but quite frankly, Pearl is worse than those old Pokemon games. Perhaps the game would have been far less frustrating if it had the Pokemon Stadium option of accelerating the game by 3 times. Pokemon Pearl is a mess. A functional mess, but a mess nonetheless. 5.89 Overall with online. If you're a hardcore Pokemon battling fan, then you may be able to get your money's worth due to an at least improved system for doing so with online, if only by exchanging friend codes. The online trading is a bonus, but not at all a selling point. I can't reasonably recommend Pokemon Pearl to anyone. 5.95. Thing.